because I'm too worried about the future, and I feel like a lot of people are, so I want to talk about it. And of course, the future is worrying. It is unknown and unknowable. But I also think that worry can get a bad rap because we do it wrong. So, let's talk about it.
Whoa, what is happening, workforce? Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. I'm going to ask you guys to buckle up. This is going to be a really wild ride of a video. There's a lot that I want to talk about. There is so much that I want to share. I want to share, first of all, thank you to each and every one of the 50,000 people who have joined us in this experiment called Work to Game and hit that subscribe button, to the over 500 people who've hit that subscribe button over on Ginger Prime, to over 400 people who've hit that subscribe button over on our podcast highlights channel. Thank each and every one of you guys for your support. It really means the world to me. I opened this video with a little clip from Hank Green over on the Vlog Brothers channel talking about why he's worried about 2020. And I think it's natural to be worried about the future. And I want to talk about in this video why I'm actually excited about 2020. I think that we're about to be on the precipice of a whole new era for gaming. I think gaming is going to be better than it's been in a long time in 2020 and the decade to come. That sure, there are definitely problems. Sure, there are definitely things to be concerned about. Sure, we're going to keep fighting the good fight to really work our way towards a better and brighter future for each and every one of us. I think that's obviously the goal. But as I look forward to the future, and as I am rooted in hope and optimism, if anybody that's hit that subscribe button knows, I am a very hopeful, very optimistic individual to a fault, and I get that. But it is tempered, obviously, by pragmatism and my realist sense. I always kind of feel an individual who's sometimes at war with himself in how I choose to look at things and how I choose to see things. But right now I see that we're going to be in a better place than ever before, and gaming is going to be a better place than ever before, and there's many, many reasons for that. But I'm going to focus in on what I'm personally excited for in 2020 in this video, and I hope that you come along on this journey with me in this case. It's going to be a little bit different of a video than I've made in quite some time, and I think it's just the fact that I honestly feel just so grateful and thankful as a part of this. Like, everybody sits down sometimes and they say thank you Brian, or thank you Chris for your video, you really helped me out. And honestly, like, I have to get better at accepting that, because it just feels strange in that way. Like, I don't feel like we have a 50,000 member channel here. I don't feel that way. I honestly just feel like this is a way, almost a kind of a therapeutic way of me reaching back out into a void in which that there has just been a swell of frustration and anger. And I see that when we interact with people in the comments, because I don't see, like, and I don't perceive myself that way. And again, I said it's going to be a weird video because you're going to be coming along on a thought journey with me today. I just see people who I've gotten to know better and able to call friends, and I'm so thankful for that. Like, the fact that we've been playing Phantasy Star Online 2, Final Fantasy XIV, Gears 5, like all of these different games that we've been able to enjoy together, to be able to reach back out and let each other know that we're not alone, that we're not, maybe we are crazy, but we're not necessarily too crazy, to sit back and just say, like, listen, gaming is something that that can unite us, regardless of where we fall on different ideas, on different beliefs. Like, for me personally, I am Catholic. I am very religious. I love my faith, and I don't really talk about it a heavily amount. I feel like I don't need to, and nor should I. But I feel like those who have come in and said, like, wow, Brian, like, I didn't know you were Catholic. It's like we get to engage, because I'm always of the sound mind that I believe I'll talk about in all kinds of mixed company, politics, religion, all of that, because I think it should always be tempered with the measure of respect. And I think that's one of the things that gaming brings to the table, that unites us in a way unlike any other thing out there in the world. We all play games. Like, it is, I think it's a part of who we are from a human perspective, and that's why I'm hopeful for 2020. Like, when I look at what is coming out, I mean, heck, I've been playing Phantasy Star Online 2 over on Ginger Prime. I've been going to be posting up some guides and more for that. Like, I've got plans, and the fact that people are responding to that channel is so exciting to see. And it is just this profound sense. Like, I am playing this game, and there's so much that I love about it and so much that I respect about it, and it's surprising actually how it's a free-to-play game, and yet at the same time it doesn't seem to bother me. Where in the past, free-to-play games always have me on edge. Here I go into Phantasy Star Online 2, and here I am having just the time of my life. We've got some new MMOs that are on the horizon. We posted up a video just a little while ago talking about New World. We haven't posted this yet, but I have a video that we're working on for Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. I'm kind of waiting until we can get an idea of a release date before we start worrying about rolling out that content, because who knows? It could be 2020, it could be beyond that. But when it comes to MMOs and these kind of games, like, there's so many things that people are starting to experiment. And why I'm excited about the future, why the future isn't dying, like we talked about that in the video, because there was an article, because essentially talking about the conversation around MMOs is that they're all dying. And these, I think it's essentially we're on a precipice of a whole new era of technology that's going to allow for renovation and really bring what the core of these games are to light through technology and innovation. We've seen such an interesting shift over the last decade. And I think there's a lot of frustration in that last decade, a lot of experimentation in that last decade. But we've also seen a lot of really good things start to emerge, and we haven't yet seen the full fruits of those technologies emerging. And so when I look at like MMOs, when we look at just New World, for example, their goal is to be able to, I think, put 50,000 or 10, 10 or it's just some absurd number into one instance, one zone of that content. And let's just say 10 for argument. They're going to start with 500 and scale up from there. And on that note, you think about how is Fortnite more of an MMO in today's society? Not MMORPG, mind you, but with 100 people. That is something that came out of the last decade. The next decade, they're talking about 10,000 people. We're talking about having that technology applied to something that could really bring in this persistent world to really start to separate what MMOs are versus kind of the rest. I think the water's been kind of somewhat muddied over the last decade. There's obviously the exceptions to the rule in that case, but I'm sitting here looking towards the future, and I'm seeing that the games that we're about to be playing, it's really exciting to see. When we talk about the future with Final Fantasy XIV, we've got 3 big patches coming up this year. On New Year's, Yoshi P should put out his letter, which has the the poem or the allusion as to what the year is to bring. And it's going to be, I think, a really solid year for that as well. I think when we look at it, and why I'm excited about the future for gaming, is that there is the sense within this community here, and I'm speaking directly to the workforce, there is a sense that together we are able to do so much more. And I want to take a second to kind of talk to the content creators out there here in the workforce, those who are either considering starting and making content, or those who are, and whether you're struggling or you're finding success. Everything in life that's attached to risk is going to be worth it, whether you fail. Don't be afraid to fail at the things that you love and you want to do. I think in a way, as a baseball player, I played baseball. I don't know if I've shared that before. Played it in college. Baseball is a sport that taught me you fail more than you succeed, and it's such an interesting thing to look at, of course, over the course of American history, because baseball is such a integral part. It's done so many things. I can look back, and I have a profound love for the sport, namely statistics. If you ever look at my critiques of games, normally it kind of sometimes boils down to I want more stats. I want more random stats. I want to know just the most absurd things, just because I find it interesting, and that's one of the things that attracts me to baseball. And baseball is defined by failures. Like when you step up to the plate, you fail. If you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're a great baseball player. You're a great hitter. If you fail 7 out of 10 times. I think this is going to be a great year in terms of content because frick the algorithm when it comes to it. A lot of people, a lot of YouTubers are worried about it. You have Kappa, you've got all these things that are like coming down the pipe. The doom is coming. And I say to you, frick the algorithm. Let's make this year the year of the best content that we can make, the most creative ideas. It does feel good to have somebody watch your video. It does feel good to see that like counter go up. It does feel good, but don't define you by that, by some algorithm, by some response to it. I think when it comes down to the idea of self-esteem is something that comes within and without. If you're defining how you feel by an outward response, that isn't self-esteem. Let's make 2020, from a creative perspective, the year of self-esteem. The year in which that you create the best content that you can. And this is me also talking to me as I'm editing this video. Let's make the best content we can. And frick the algorithm, who cares, right? Let's just put beauty, put passion, put ourselves out there. Let's take a risk and see what we can do. 2020 and the decade of 2020 is going to be defined, I think, by our joy, our passion, our experimentation, ourselves, and our self-esteem that is going to build up, and it's going to change the face of YouTube. It's going to change this world. And we might not see that change. Don't be afraid that you might not see the fruits of your labor, and that's perfectly fine. It's perfectly reasonable. Because sometimes our impact can be a while away. Sometimes we might not see the person whose life we've had a positive impact on. Sometimes, and that's it feels good when you can see. And there's definitely an argument to be made that from a local perspective, be out and involved in your communities, be involved in what is going on in your world, because that's obviously going to affect you the most. But it is such an interesting way with this technology. It's dangerous. I've talked about this before. We've seen it a lot. I see it a lot on Twitter. There's just a lot of shouting out into the void. People wondering why, they either aren't growing in terms of their content or their audience or their community, especially as it relates to like streaming and content creation. And thus, I would say, find somebody who's having success and do what they do. That's the advice that I got from my coach when I was in high school. He's like, go find people who are successful and do what they do. And hopefully you're going to see that kind of quality brought in to here at the channel with Work to Game. Hopefully we can take our content to a new level and make it both educational and entertaining at the same time. We've always viewed ourselves as an educational channel, and we're going to keep trying to do that to help bridge that gap and to welcome people into our fold. We were streaming the other day. People were saying hey, I stream too. And it's let us know. We're about this community. And just because you hit the subscribe button here doesn't mean I'm not here for you. And I think anybody, it can be intimidating. I'm gonna tell you guys about this right now. It can be really intimidating to talk with me. And I'm not saying this from my perspective that I'm gonna yell at you. That's just what people who reach out to me and say oh my gosh, we're actually on a phone call together. It's yeah, I get that, but I'm just like you, flesh and blood, 10 fingers, thankfully, which allows me to hold controllers. And so if you guys got questions, if you got concerns, if you got things it's not platitudes. You could probably ask a lot of people who've had that experience. And even if you disagree with us, and that's the whole point, when we say the experiment of Work to Game, and I said this is going to be a journey of a video, we mean it. We've actively tried to build the anti-echo chamber, and a lot of you have come into that. And some of you all have left, and it's I don't know what our total D-subs are, but I know what our current active subscribers are because it says it on the dashboard. And some of you all have left because it is a challenge in which that you will be offended. You will find ways that we disagree. But hopefully, if I am doing what I set out to do and do it well, I'm human, so it's not always going to be the case. But if I do it well, there's respect in our disagreement. You know, there's that. I don't have to necessarily agree with your idea, but I can respect you as a human being, and I can respect where you're coming from. And that's what I do. I am a curious person by nature, and that's why I do it. Because like I think one of the greatest things about the fact that this community has grown so is it gives me a lot of different perspectives on where people are coming from. But obviously, you got to be willing to kind of to share your perspective and have that conversation. But that's neither here nor there. Back to the creator perspective. Make 2020 yours. Don't let anybody say you can't. And if anybody says that, use that for motivation. Don't be afraid to fail. You're gonna fail. Don't be afraid to fail, because at the end of your life, I think for me, I live off the concept of mitigating risk and regret. And that's one of the reasons why I'm very active, trying not to be a helicopter dad with the 4 kids, but in a way that I'm, I definitely not fun at parties, like especially with the kids. Like I'm very like counting heads and making sure that no one's falling or climbing up things they shouldn't be climbing up. And I'm honored for that privilege. Julie and I weren't able to have kids for a long time, and she had a brain tumor, a pituitary tumor, and we had that removed, and that seemed to have fixed the issue. And so over the last, we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary this year. Over the last 10 years, we've been able to have four children, and it's been amazing. And we don't know if we're done yet or not in that regards. We've always felt called to have a big family, and we might foster or adopt. We've actually went through foster training, but prior to really, prior to the last 3 children, because we do feel like that. I honestly, when I look at, I'm not a wealthy person by any means, but I am definitely somebody who believes that you can't take it with you. And for my kids, I'm blessed to have a brother and a sister, and I think those are the greatest gifts my parents ever gave me. And I'm very happy that we have such a good, positive, close relationship with my siblings. I know not everybody shares that in this life. And what I mean by all that is that I hope that I can give them that same thing that my parents gave me, so that in the day and the time comes when I'm no longer making YouTube videos, that they can have that shared memory. They can have that bond, that family bond together. And I believe that very deeply, kind of to the root of who I am as a human being. So, if you don't want children, it's not an advocate. Don't, you know what you want. Go and live your dream. Be the best you can be. Be the most human you can be. Lastly, I gushed on video games at first, but if you're still here watching this video with me right now, I do thank you very much. This last couple weeks, we've lost Julie's grandfather, and that's why you haven't seen me a lot on the channel. And it's been really awesome to see how how the conversation's been going. I've been trying to occasionally catch up on the comments, but he was a really good man. He suffered the last couple years of his life, and he did pass away. We had the wake, the funeral, the rosary, all that for him, and we buried him just the other day. And grief is really hard. And when you look at it, because obviously this was all happening over the Christmas holiday, I've had a lot of really amazing conversations with people here in the community. And I do want to thank, Leland in this case directly, because him and I have had a lot of good conversations. He's a good, I think, man, somebody who I've really gotten to know and call a friend. And this applies to a lot of people, but also even Starwolf. A lot of people reached out, because I posted this on our Discord that this happened, and a lot of condolences. And it reminds me of something like Stephen Colbert said, is that, suffering is something that makes us the most human. It's something that we all share. And it reminds me that over the holidays, people have lost loved ones. You might have lost a sibling or a parent, or a friend. And the holidays just aren't going to be the same, ever since that point. But at the same time, you're not also alone, because everybody's had loss. We lost Eric, coming up on 2 years now. He passed away, a good friend of ours. And there's something in that shared suffering that we can relate to each other, and we can actually have empathy, and we can have that, and we can practice that empathy with one another, and makes it not, fun, but it's still, unfortunately, a reality of life. But it isn't so isolating, and so just to reach out to anybody out there that's suffering, like, you aren't alone. You know, we're all have been there, we will be there. And, you know, and to that regards, like, you know, so if you are having struggles, reach out, you know. If you are worried, if you are suffering, if you are having, like, mental illness, like, reach out. Whether it's to anybody here on the channel, on our Discord, a message on Twitter. Don't give up. Yeah. We love you. And if you guys will permit me at this time, I want to end this video with a prayer. And you know, we all have different beliefs. We all come from different backgrounds and things like that. So, like, I totally get it if you want to click off at this point. But if you don't, I'm just gonna say a prayer for anybody watching this video. Yeah, I think it's a pretty simple prayer of blessing. Actually comes from the Old Testament. So we'll go ahead and begin. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you safe. May He shine His face upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. I wish you the best year. I wish you the most joy. I wish you everything good in this world. And I wish you take risks in 2020. I love you very much. Thank you very much. And I'll see you soon. Take care.